Good evening. I'm very excited to be here tonight and have this wonderful opportunity. If you would go ahead and pray with me as we begin. Dearly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all your many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. I pray that we will not take those for granted, but I also pray that we will seek you first in everything that we do. I pray for your wisdom and your guidance, and that you'll speak through me. In your name, amen. All right. I wanted to start tonight by listing a few things that we might enjoy, things that I enjoy as well. For instance, some of the simple things might be like enjoying an ice cream cone on a summer day like today. It's hot outside. Get to enjoy some ice cream. It's good. And or you might enjoy reading a book and or watching your favorite TV show, watching a movie. For others, it might be watching a favorite sports team, hopefully win. For others, it might be going to the lake, or going up to the cabin, going on a vacation. Some more serious ones might be just the care of a child, just having a child to care for, or a spouse to love. Friends to have for company. While these are all great things, we say that we enjoy them, and God has made them for His glory and for our enjoyment. But in some cases, we might say that we love them. And that is where we need to be careful. And this is where the heart of my message comes from tonight. So if you'll open with me to 1 John 2, 15 through 17, and we'll look into the text. I'm reading from the ESV. It says, "Do not love the world or the things of it in this world. For if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away, along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever." Now, we just talked about the things that we love in this world. And then the very first sentence in this passage says, "Do not love the things of this world." And that's what intrigues me about this passage. And I just wanted to point that out, how we know that God has created this for our enjoyment. But why can't we love them? Why should we not love the things of this world? And that is exactly the question that this text answers, and John points that out for us. And so I want to focus on this question: why should we not love the world? And in the text, we see 4 reasons why we should not love the world. First off, we see because we are called to love the Father. And that says, it's right away in verse 15. It says, "If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him." Therefore, it is implied that we should love the Father. And why would God, the Father, not invest His love into those who love the world? You can see that's a conditional statement right there. It says, if you love the world, you do not love the Father. It's one or the other. They're mutually exclusive. You have God over here, who you can love, or you have the world over here in all its desires, things that we talked about. Ice cream cone, for instance, or a vacation. A little bit different, but it pales in comparison, right? And it's one or the other. You can't have both. You need to love God before you love this world. And also you see this in Matthew 6:24. "No one can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." In this text, it's specifically about the monetary gains, or the money that is involved in this world. But we know that there's much more than that. I talked about, family and friends. And while that's great, and God has given that to us, we also need to be careful that we do not put those before Christ. And one way that we can apply this to our lives is by following the 10 Commandments. "You shall have no other God before me." And that includes everything that we love in today's world. Our free time, games, school, or watching TV, all the simple things that could so easily eat up our time, and we choose to take those over Christ. not only are we called to love the Father, but we also see that we should not love the world because the world is corrupt. And John says this in verse 16. He says, "For all that is in the world, the desires of the world, is the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life." Now, what are the desires of the flesh? What are the desires of the eyes? What is the pride of life? And I think that can basically be summed up in as a hunger, a yearning for the temporal pleasures of this world. And we see that so often. Like I listed all those illustrations before. Just the day-to-day of what we do, that we get so wrapped up in, that we lose sight of what our true goal is. And so, if we slow down and we look at all the things that God has given us, which are great, we need to remind ourselves of what truly matters. And I think that it's interesting how the author, John, points out that the eyes are what cause this. He says, the desires of the eyes, or in another translation it says, the lust of the eyes. And I think it's funny. We teach our kids a song in Sunday school, "Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see." And it's so true. It's such a simple song, and we forget it so quickly, but it's your eyes that lead you into so much temptation and trouble. And that's where we need to be careful. I am really convicted by this personally. Especially as we see everything around us is filled with sin. But if we know that we do not love the world, we can love God instead. That is where our hope is found. And I also see in this verse that the pride of life. And I think it's interesting how we could ever be proud of what we have accomplished. It's God who sustains everything that we do. And it's by His power that we are able to do anything, not by our own abilities, our own greatness. And I think of sports players and athletes who, after a press conference, after a game or a match or whatever it may be, they say, "God bless," and give all the glory to God and all this. And I think that's actually sometimes like, oh, well, does he really mean that? But I think it is pretty interesting how we can see that they're giving God for their accomplishments, and we need to do that in everything that we do. It's not our own doing that allows us to do anything. We can walk up and down the street, but it's not by our own doing. It's God has given us the ability, and He's given us the ability to love Him, and that's what we need to do. And the lust of the flesh, I think of Pilgrim's Progress, and we remember Christian, if you've read the book, he walks into Vanity Fair, and his companion is overwhelmed with everything it has to offer. Vanity Fair is everything that this world, everything that we love about this world. But Christian doesn't get sidetracked. He remembers his goal, his aim to go to the celestial city. And that's where we need to go. We need to forget about the pleasures of this world and look to the eternal hope in God and with Christ. So we see that only that we are called to love the Father, and because the world is corrupt, that we should not love the world. And thirdly, because the world is passing away. And what does this mean? What does it mean that the world is passing away? If we look in verse 8 of chapter 2, it says, "At the same time, is a new commandment that I'm writing to you, which is true in Him and in you, because the darkness is passing away and the true light is shining." This image of darkness passing away and the light coming forth. Christ is our light. And when we invite Him into our lives, that is when the darkness passes away. And this world around us is the darkness that consumes us. It's the love that we have of this fallen world. And Christ is the light that if we put our faith in Him, He can remove that. We have the light to share with others as well. I want you to think about something. So there's two people at this company. and they got their quarterly earnings report, and they come to find out that they're going to get a reward or a promotion, and they're both given an option. The guy over here is given the option to receive $1,000 immediately, or he has 1,000 shares in stock options. The guy over here has the same opportunity to do that. He gets the same option. This guy over here decides, I'll take the $1,000. He needs it for a down payment on his house. Now that's smart at the time being. But this guy over here takes 1,000 shares in stock options. And even if it goes up $1.01, he already has made more money than this guy over here. And now think about all the years that he saves up those stocks and he can sell them off. That's just a little example of what Christ has given to us. He gives us this temporal world, this $1,000, which might seem nice, but it pales in comparison to what He has given us eternally, life with Him in glory, forever. And so we don't need to invest in the temporal passions, but we need to invest and set our sights on what we have in Christ in heaven. Now, we've seen that we are called to love God. We are called not only to do that, but also to forget the things of this world, and because the world is passing away. But lastly, we are called to follow God because it brings eternal blessing. It's a far better reward that He has for us. A famous theologian once said, "Hold fast to Christ, for you He became temporal, so that you might partake of eternity." And I think that's so profound. God sent down His Son, Christ, to die for us so that we might have eternal life with Him. Where would we be without that? I think that's the ultimate sacrifice, and the least we can do is to repeat that love for Him and forget about the things of this world. We have the idea that there's something better, the blessing, the eternal blessing that God gives. I want to look at the literary piece of this text. We see that John points out why not to love the world. He first talks about because the love of the Father is not in you. Secondly, because the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes, the pride of life, is not from the Father. It's from the world, and it's sinful. And then he talks about it passing away. And those are all negative things about what the world is. But then he turns and he puts it in a positive sense. He says why we should love God and why we should love what He's done for us. And that's where it flips the switch. I think it's interesting how he has 1, 2, 3 bad things about the world. And then he flips it around and shows us one good thing, or amazing thing, what God has given to us. And that is what he says here. He says, "But whoever does the will of God abides forever." And I want to talk about this word abides here. Abides has a funny connotation here. It's not only God abiding in us, but it's also us abiding in God. It's the mutual agreement with each other that when we put our faith in Him, He is hidden in our hearts. We are also written in the Lamb's Book of Life. We are His forever. And that's how we abide with Christ. It's both of us. And like I said before, you can't have both. You can't have the world and have Christ. It needs to be one or the other. And so I want you to look at heaven as the incentive. I don't want you to think about the bad things of this world. I want you to look at the great things that God has to offer eternally. So with that being said, let me remind you of the 4 things that why we should not love the world. First off, because we are called to love the Father. And secondly, because the world is corrupt. And lastly, because the world is passing away. But then, John puts it in the terms as why we should love the Father. And that makes all the difference, is because He brings us an eternal blessing. And I want this message to serve as a reminder, not as a reason to come to Christ, but as a reminder that the things in this world are not for us. We are not made for this world. We have an eternal spot which God has given to us, and we need to see that first. And that needs to be our priority. Christ needs to be our priority. And our treasures in heaven, not on earth. So, will you pray with me as we close? Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you that you sent your Son down on the cross for us. Pray that you will remind us that every good blessing comes from you, and that our treasure is in heaven, and that we should not love the things of this world, because you have called us to love you.